I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States. In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction. We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena, or as light aberrations. However, there have been a certain percentage of this volume of reports that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things.
Hello, we're the Cryptid Code. We're your hosts, Harmon
and Jessica.
And we like to talk about cryptids, aliens, and generally anything spooky.
And we cuss a fuck ton.
Indeed. And welcome to Season 3 of the Cryptid Code. We're back after our little break. After our deep dive into Mothman, we needed some time to recover, enjoy the holidays. But we haven't been idle. The last few months we've been hard at work, researching, investigating, and preparing a whole new batch of cryptids to present this season. You want to know how you can really tell I've been going deep down into research lately, Jess?
How?
I look like dog shit. You can't see it, thank God, listeners. But you cannot see the dark circles under my eyes like I am a cave goblin. My beard is significantly longer since we last recorded. I came out of my house like a fucking wizard, emerging from his arcane archive. It was great.
So I got a new job.
Yeah.
I make decent money. They schedule me for overtime hours, even though I'm still a college student. That's cool. So I also have horrendous dark circles. Like, I look like Indrid.
Yeah, she works for the Men in Black now.
I do indeed.
She's a traitor.
Yep.
Which is actually pretty on point. Now, as always, we like to open our seasons with a bit of a bang. A big story, a compelling mystery to set the tone for the episodes to come. So we're starting Season 3 of what is perhaps the greatest UFO case you never heard of. Now, I'm willing to bet at least a portion of our audiences have heard of this, but you kind of have to already be in the UFO lore. Have you heard about all the crazy stuff going on with UFOs lately?
Not until you told me.
For those who... We're recording this in February, a little peek behind the curtain for anyone listening. But just a few days ago, 3 to 4 UFOs were seen by the Canadian and American Air Force. At least 2 were shot down, possibly 3. One in Alaska, I believe 1 in Canada, and 1 landed in Lake Huron. They even had to shut down the Michigan airspace because of it.
Really?
Yeah. According to CNN, the craft that was being chased, according to the pilots that they interviewed, they said it was cylindrical, had no obvious engine, and no visible spy equipment. So at first, everyone thought it was a balloon, but my little conspiracy senses, they were tingling.
Wait. Is this the Chinese weather balloon conspiracy?
No. This is a whole separate thing.
Possibly. Interesting. Also, what did they do with them after they shoot them down? Because that weather balloon got shot down by 2 fucking rednecks, with their
They mounted it on a wall.
Probably.
like a deer head.
They probably molded it into antlers and put it up. No, but these guys were literally drinking beers in their backyard, and they're like, "That's it, damn, where they're the balloon, we go shoot it.
Let's go, Mountaineers."
America's weird, man.
This is why aliens probably stopped hanging out with us. They saw what we were like and dipped.
I don't know if we have people in other countries listening, but if you are not in America, good God, this place is strange.
It's like a GTA Online server.
But anyway, aside from the weather balloon, I do wonder what they do with these things after they shoot them down, because you know that they're not going to let us see it, like, anytime soon, at least. You know? They're going to drag it somewhere, like, rip it apart, figure out exactly what it is, and then maybe they'll tell us, but more than likely it'll just get brushed under a rug in the fucking government somewhere.
And turn to the next iPhone.
It's the iPhone 18 Pro.
Gamer.
The iPhone 18 Pro PS4 Xbox.
Anyway, and 2 more UFOs were seen over China, spotted by the Chinese Air Force.
I can imagine there's a lot of things that fly over China that just, I don't know, like, that we just never hear about, because, like, media is, like, limited, and, like...
Be careful of what you're about to say,
I'm
Jess.
trying to...
Our social credit score is about to collapse.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, there's
we have listeners in China. They will...
Their social media access in a lot of countries is limited, and I'm pretty sure that China's one of those countries, so I don't think they can just, like, take pictures of everything and upload it. So I feel like there's a lot of things that have probably flown over there that we just don't know about.
We here at the Cryptid Code would just like to reiterate our passionate devotion to the CCP.
I'm not saying Carmen, I said nothing.
Please do not murder us. Nothing happened at Tiananmen Square.
You're acting like I just said a slur because I said that their social media access is limited.
These are the guys who edited the finale of Fight Club. Do you know about that?
No.
You know Fight Club? Literally me?
I've never seen Fight Club.
Spoilers for Fight Club, guys. Welcome to
the movie that came out in the fucking 90s.
Welcome to the Cryptid Club. First rule: don't talk about cryptids.
We're breaking
so
that
it's a terrorist. The main character is a terrorist. He has split personality.
Oh.
And at the end of the movie, he blows up a bunch of buildings. He makes sure they're empty first, so you can still kind of sympathize with him.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese version of Fight Club cuts that. It cuts the finale. So when Tyler Durden realizes he's a terrorist, it cuts to a black screen with text saying that soon after he was arrested by the Chinese police.
What the fuck? See, and they don't know this.
We just blew the mind of, like, at least a few Chinese listeners who are scrambling for international copies of Fight Club.
They're scrambling to Google things that is probably blocked by their government.
Oh, God. We'll see if this makes into the episode.
It won't.
We're 7.5 minutes in. We haven't even talked about aliens. But we kind of did. Anyway. Allow me to set the stage. The year is 1952. You are one Captain Edward Ruppelt, director of Project Blue Book. And it's been a busy year. Not only did Project Blue Book start in the March of that year, taking over from its predecessor, Project Grudge, but there had been a significant uptick in UFO activity across the country. Are you familiar with Project Blue Book? Maybe seen it's the official Air Force investigation into UFOs. It was known as Project Blue Book. There was also Project Sign and Project Grudge.
Why do I know? Why have I heard of the other two, but not of Project Blue Book, which is the main one? But
yeah, anyway. It's the one that got a TV show on History Channel. Anyway, according to government documentation, 1952 consisted of 1,501 total UFO sightings, with 303 marked as unexplained. To give context, there is a total of 10,147 total sightings from 1947 to 1965, with only about 646 marked as unexplained. That means 14.79% of those total sightings are from 1 year, 1952, which also provided 46.9% of the unexplained sightings. In time, many ufologists would dub this the Big Flap. A period of almost unprecedented UFO activity. Stationed out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, you struggle to keep up. Reports are published months behind schedule as your office is just flooded with sightings. However, it is worth noting that the government was approaching the saucer problem very differently than one would think. While the public was abuzz with talk of little green men, the Air Force interest in unidentified aircraft was fueled more by Cold War paranoia. Remember, the Soviet Union was still around at this time.
Yeah.
We just got rid of the angry Charlie Chaplin cosplayer in Germany. So without a common enemy, we started hating the Soviet Union because they're different than us.
Of course.
Yeah. Rather than extraterrestrial terror. The main concern was Soviet spycraft. Relevant. Topical, even. But in July of 1952, that would change. Edward Ruppelt learned that firsthand as he stared at the headline of the Cedar Rapids Gazette, as it read in bold, explosive text, "Saucers swarm over Capitol," marking the beginning of what has become known as the Washington UFO wave. Are you familiar at all?
No.
Yeah, we're gonna get into it, obviously. That's what the episode's about. It all began on Sanduary.
Sanduary.
It all began on Saturday, July 19th, at the Washington National Airport, since renamed the Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Ronald Reagan, you might recognize this from all those Bedtime with Bonzo movies.
Yes.
With the chimp.
Mm-hmm.
The time was 11:40 p.m., and Edward Nugent was watching the airport's radar screen. It was a slow night of watching the green line spin. That was until 7 dots appeared on the screen. They appeared flying about 15 miles south by southwest of the city and just shy of Andrews Air Force Base. From the looks of it, they're flying formation and going about 100 to 130 miles per hour. However, no formations were supposed to be in that area. Suddenly, 2 of the dots shot off screen, suddenly speeding beyond the radar's reach. Harry, you might want to see this, he said, calling his supervisor, Senior Controller Harry Barnes, into the room. But he couldn't make heads or tails of it. Later writing, quote, "We knew immediately that a very strange situation existed. Their movements were completely radical compared to those of ordinary aircraft," end quote. I only can do 2 voices, regular voice and New Jersey Italian construction worker. Barnes even called in 2 more operators to make sure the radar wasn't malfunctioning, but they found it was in perfect working order. They then contacted the control tower to see if they were picking up too. Controllers Howard Coughlin and Joe Zacco.
Oh, those are wonderful sounds. Wonderful names.
Zacco confirmed that not only did they see a blip on their radar, they could see it right outside their window. Bright light hovered on the horizon before suddenly shooting off. "If you believe in flying saucers," Zacco said, "that could sure be one." Barnes also checked with Andrews and Bowling Air Force Base, both of whom had detected the object as well. In his retelling of the incident in his 1956 book, The Report on Unidentified Flying Objects, Reupload, the director of Project Blue Book, wrote, quote, "One target was clocked at 7,000 miles an hour. By now, the targets had moved into every sector of the scope and had flown for the prohibited flying areas over the White House and the Capitol building." It's like Independence Day, end quote. He didn't add that last part about Independence Day, just so it's sure everyone. An airman radar operator named William Brady was present at Andrews. He claimed to have seen, quote, "an object which appeared to be like an orange ball of fire, trailing a tail, unlike anything I've ever seen before." The operators asked the commercial airline pilots in the area if they had seen anything. For most, the answer is no. But even this is contested, as many might have seen something, but not wanting to say anything because you can't really have people questioning your mental stability if you're an airline pilot.
Yeah.
Not if you want to keep your job. But there were 2 reports of unidentified objects witnessed by pilots. The first happened around 1:15 a.m. Capital Airlines Flight 807 was on the runway when the pilot, one Captain S.C. Pierman, was radioing asking for permission to take off. Instead, he was asked if he could see any strange objects in the sky, to which responded, quote, "There's one, off to the right, and there it goes," end quote. Pierman's statement coincided almost perfectly with the movement of a blip on the radar. That's going to be very important later. That people are seeing it moving in line with what's happening on the radar. Pierman would also report seeing another 6 lights within a quarter of an hour, described as, quote, like falling stars without trails. So without a little tail thing that follows them. The second pilot sighting that night was around 3 a.m. Capital Airlines Flight 610 was flying to DC. Captain Howard Dermott reported seeing a single light that followed their plane from Hendron, Virginia, all the way to 4 or 7, depending on the source, miles of the national airport. This sighting aligned perfectly with radar images from the radar control tower and the National Airport Tower. At Andrews Air Force Base, the radar showed 8 objects over Washington.
Wild.
Yeah, it's going to get weirder.
It always gets weirder.
That's the Cryptid Code guarantee. What makes this sighting truly fascinating is the fact that the radars were all picking up the blips, sometimes correlating with each other. Ruppelt wrote, quote, "Once during the night, all 3 radars, the 2 at Washington and the one at Andrews Air Force Base, picked up a target 3 miles north of the Riverdale radio beacon, north of Washington. For 30 seconds, the 3 radar operators compared notes about the target over the intercom. And suddenly, the target was gone, and left all 3 radio scopes simultaneously," end quote. Around 3 a.m., a pair of F-94 Starfire jets were dispatched from Newcastle Air Force Base to investigate. However, just before they arrived, the blips disappeared.
Always.
Across all 3 radar screens, the sky perfectly empty. The jets searched the area anyway to see if they could find anything, but nothing. Running low on fuel, the jets turned around and returned to base. And as soon as the jets were gone, the dots returned. For another 2 hours, they observed the same objects scrambling across the area until 5:30 a.m. when they finally disappeared. So, thoughts so far?
I don't know. There's multiple witnesses to every single one.
And these are all like official dudes.
Yeah, these are all reliable people. This is very different from a lot of our cases where it's like some redneck in Alabama.
What's the one you always like to quote about Mountain Dew?
Oh, I tried this one chili. It set my mouth on fire. I had to drink a 2-liter Mountain Dew.
Poetry.
It's from the West Virginia Chili Festival in Boone County. No, I don't know if it's actually in Boone County, but it's one of those.
One of those.
One of those counties.
Ow.
Did you give yourself whiplash, bud? All right.
Okay, another peek behind the curtain for our listeners. I've also spent the months we've been on break getting jacked. And I did shrugs today, which work out your like neck muscles. Well, trapezoids. And I sprained something. For like half the day, I've been like Michael Keaton's Batman. I can't turn my head. I just have to turn the whole body. He's coming back in the Flash movie.
Really?
Yeah, good.
Isn't he a little old?
Yeah, he's playing Thomas Wayne.
I think like seeing him as Beetlejuice again. It just ain't right.
Well, apparently everyone's so excited they forgot Ezra Miller had a cult and kidnapped people.
Of course.
Gosh. Altogether, this is a pretty impressive event. You have credible, reliable people, air traffic controllers, pilots, military personnel, seeing these things, not just on the radar, but with their own eyes. But it doesn't end there. In the aftermath of the incident, Washington and really the nation as a whole was enthralled by the story. Newspapers across the country were announcing that flying saucers have invaded the Capitol, tapping into the public's fascination with the UFO phenomenon. That was such a big story that actually managed to dethrone the Democratic National Convention from the front page. Just straight up, no one cares about the election.
Never.
It doesn't matter who the president is if the aliens are coming, right?
Yeah.
I voted for Karen Dorr. I swear to God, I'm funny, listeners. And it is from one of those newspapers that the sightings came to the attention of Captain Edward Ruppelt. A little embarrassing given that he's the head of Project Blue Book. And he's supposed to kind of have his ear to the ground. And made a little bit more embarrassing / frustrating because he was personally in DC the night of the incident and had no idea. He was there for a Pentagon meeting. It's kind of funny because he was reading an issue of the Washington Daily News that announced that a UFO expert was arriving to examine the sightings. And when he asked who said expert was, all the intelligence officers answered, "You," which I think is just funny. He rushed to the Pentagon, meeting with intelligence officers, while Al Chop, Blue Book's public relations expert, managed the crowds of reporters downstairs. Ruppelt wanted to hit the ground running. He intended to visit the National Airport, Andrews, and essentially work all night to get to the bottom of what happened. All he needed was a staff car, and he was told no.
What the fuck?
Only generals and senior colonels can use staff cars. If he wanted to drive around Washington, he was advised to get a cab.
What the fuck, man?
And Ruppelt might have gone for it, except for the fact that his daily budget allowance was a whopping $9. Now, remember,
What?
1952.
I know it's 1952, but like, they want Homeboy to go rent a cab for like hours upon hours to go help search for fucking aliens or whatever.
Yeah, now adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $100, but split between a dozen taxi rides, and he still has to get food and a hotel room. Math ain't mathin'.
No.
Officially, the Pentagon issued a simple, brisk statement of no comment, while a very frustrated Ruppelt decided to return to Wright-Patterson's Air Force Base. There, he asked for the opinion of one Captain Roy James.
Roy! Sorry. It's just a name that I feel like is very West Virginian as well. I know they're in DC, but I swear to God, you meet an old man in West Virginia, his name gonna be Roy, or Leroy,
Or Greg.
or John.
Or John. In jokes the audience won't get.
Woo!
Woo! Now, Captain Roy James believed that the radar blips could have been the result of the weather phenomenon, specifically a temperature inversion. Now, I'm not a meteorologist, so I'm just going to give the Encyclopedia Britannica definition. Quote, temperature inversion, also called thermal inversion, is a reversal of the normal behavior of temperature in the troposphere, the region of the atmosphere nearest the Earth's surface, in which a cool layer of air at the surface is overlain by a layer of warmer air.
Okay, but does that account for the lights that the pilots are seeing?
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I shouldn't have shushed you. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Does that account for the lights that the pilots are seeing?
I realize the podcast live or die in conversation, and when you try to make conversation, I'm like, no. No, it does not account for the lights, but we'll be getting more into that in a bit. Really, it's going to be kind of a shit excuse. And it's not going to get better.
Oh.
Uh,
What else is new?
Really, this is a good argument for the idea that the Men in Black are not government agents, that they're aliens, because we see the government trying to actually do something and they're fumbling. They're fumbling the ball.
What else is new?
What else is new?
What else is new? Our government doesn't do shit.
Enjoy the potholes, fuckers.
I can't wait until I actually try and get a federal job and they find out about this podcast where I've talked shit on the government multiple times.
But you also talk shit on the Chinese government, so that might. We'll see if this makes sense to the episode. We're burning a lot of bridges. Season 3 is off the fucking chain.
Woo!
Woo. I stopped taking my pills.
We are unmedicated.
Unmedicated, uncut. Ruppelt did not believe the explanation, but was ready to put the incident behind him. It was a squandered opportunity, hamstrung by the Pentagon's refusal to help him investigate. Little did he know that just a week later, he'd get another chance. In the aftermath of the incident, Washington and really the nation as a whole was enthralled by the story. Newspapers across the country were announcing that flying saucers have invaded the Capitol, tapping into the public's fascination with the UFO phenomenon. That was such a big story that it actually managed to dethrone the Democratic National Convention from the front page. Just straight up, no one cares about the election.
Never.
It doesn't matter who the president is if aliens are coming, right?
Yeah.
I voted for Karen Dorr. I swear to God, I'm funny, listeners. And it is from one of those newspapers that the sightings came to the attention of Captain Edward Ruppelt. A little embarrassing given that he's the head of Project Blue Book. And he's supposed to kind of have his ear to the ground. And made a little bit more embarrassing / frustrating because he was personally in DC the night of the incident and had no idea. He was there for a Pentagon meeting. It's kind of funny because he was reading an issue of the Washington Daily News that announced that a UFO expert was arriving to examine the sightings. And when he asked who said expert was, all the intelligence officers answered, "You," which I think is just funny. He rushed to the Pentagon, meeting with intelligence officers, while Al Chop, Blue Book's public relations expert, managed the crowds of reporters downstairs. Ruppelt wanted to hit the ground running. He intended to visit the National Airport, Andrews, and essentially work all night to get to the bottom of what happened. All he needed was a staff car. And he was told no.
What the fuck?
Only generals and senior colonels can use staff cars. If he wanted to drive around Washington, he was advised to get a cab.
What the fuck, man?
And Ruppelt might have gone for it, except for the fact that his daily budget allowance was a whopping $9. Now, remember,
What?
1952.
I know it's 1952, but, like, they want Homeboy to go rent a cab for, like, hours upon hours to go help search for fucking aliens or whatever?
Yeah. Now, adjusted for inflation, that's roughly $100, but split between a dozen taxi rides, and he still has to get food and a hotel room. Math ain't mathin'.
No.
Officially, the Pentagon issued a simple, brisk statement of no comment, while a very frustrated Ruppelt decided to return to Wright-Patterson's Air Force Base. There, he asked for the opinion of one Captain Roy James.
Roy! Sorry. It's just a name that I, like, feel like is very West Virginian as well. I know they're in DC, but, like, I swear to God, you meet an old man in West Virginia, his name gonna be Roy. Or Leroy.
Or Greg.
Or John.
Or John. In jokes the audience won't get.
Woo!
Woo! Now, Captain Roy James believed that the radar blips could have been the result of the weather phenomenon, specifically a temperature inversion. Now, I'm not a meteorologist, so I'm just going to give the Encyclopedia Britannica definition. Quote, Temperature inversion, also called thermal inversion, is a reversal of the normal behavior of temperature in the troposphere, the region of the atmosphere nearest the Earth's surface, in which a cool layer of air at the surface is overlain by a layer of warmer air.
Okay, but does that account for the lights that the pilots are seeing?
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I shouldn't assist you. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Does that account for the lights that the pilots are seeing?
I realize podcasts live or die in conversation, and when you try to make conversation, I'm like, no. No, it does not account for the lights, but we'll be getting more into that in a bit. Really, it's going to be kind of a shit excuse, and it's not going to get better.
Oh. What else is new?
Really, this is a good argument for the idea that the Men in Black are not government agents, that they're aliens, because we see the government trying to actually do something, and they're fumbling. They're fumbling the ball.
What else is new?
What else is new?
What else is new? Our government doesn't do shit.
Enjoy the potholes, fuckers.
I can't wait until I actually try and get a federal job and they find out about this podcast where I've talked shit on the government multiple times.
But you also talk shit on the Chinese government, so we'll see if this makes sense to the episode. We're burning a lot of bridges. Season 3 is off the fucking chain.
Woo!
Woo. I stopped taking my pills.
We are unmedicated.
Unmedicated, uncut. Ruppelt did not believe the explanation, but was ready to put the incident behind him. It was a squandered opportunity, hamstrung by the Pentagon's refusal to help him investigate. Little did he know that just a week later, he'd get another chance.
Ooh.
So, any more thoughts? Vibe check.
The vibe is off.
The vibes are deteriorating.
They are. They are deteriorating quickly.
Mr. Keel, the vibes are deteriorating. I was doing intercold. I'm trying to be funny. I'm a wizard. Don't buy Hogwarts Legacy. You know, while we're burning bridges today.
Okay. I would like to reiterate our hate and disgust for J.K. Rowling's behavior.
But Daniel Radcliffe, he's tight.
Daddy?
The boy who lived. Come to fuck.
Ew.
This episode's gonna be a fucking mess, dude. I'm not looking forward to editing this.
Have we ever had an episode, just me and you, that was like absolutely not a fucking mess though? No.
Family or Visitor.
That one was okay.
Beast of the Land Between the Lakes.
Oh, so basically before I realized that
the ass fuckery that is cryptozoology.
Yes.
Oh god. But yeah, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I don't like that they just told that poor man, like,
You're on your own, kiddo.
They were not like, you're gonna go far, kid. They were very much, you're on your own, kid. He was like, where are you?
Please stop. They didn't come here for a Spotify recommendation.
Yeah, don't. If y'all ever find out my last name, for the love of God, don't look at my Spotify playlist. It's atrocious.
I'm gonna post on the Twitter.
I think you've tagged me in things from the Cryptid Code Twitter.
No, I haven't.
Have you not?
No.
Oh, okay. You don't know me. There's a million bitches named Jessica out there.
Needless to say, Washington was abuzz following this. Last week was amazing, but now they have a repeat appearance. What were these things? Were they dangerous? Would they come back? The public had questions and they demanded answers. And the poor bastard given the task of fielding said questions was one Major General John A. Samford, Chief of Air Force Intelligence. He was to address the public's concerns at a press conference held at 4 p.m. on July 29th. And I cannot stress enough how big of a media circus this was. This was the largest, most attended U.S. press conference held since the end of World War II.
What the fuck? The aliens!
Essentially. Now, I actually found the audio of said press conference, if you'd like to listen to it. It should be public domain, so I might actually edit it. So you want to listen to that now?
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
I'm not going to record our reaction, so I'm just going to pause.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States. In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction. We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena, or as light aberrations. However, there have been a certain percentage of this volume of reports that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things. It is this group of observations that we now are attempting to resolve. Our basic difficulty in dealing with these is that there is no measurement of them that makes it possible for us to put them in any pattern that would be profitable for a deliberate, custom sort of analysis to take the next step. We have, as of date, come to only one firm conclusion with respect to this remaining percentage, and that is that it does not contain any pattern of purpose or of consistency that we can relate with to any conceivable threat to the United States. We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any department of the United States. We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States.
Watch me for the signal here, sir. Start.
I'll start when you throw it down.
Wait a minute. Hold it, boys. Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Roll.
Major Keyhole, as author of the book Flying Saucers Are Real, what is your opinion of these new sightings of unidentified objects?
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin. During a 3-year investigation, I found that many pilots have described objects of substance and high speed. One case, pilots reported their plane was buffeted by an object which passed them at 500 miles an hour. Obviously, this was a solid object, and I believe it was from outer space.
Hello? All right, I think we're back. So what did you think?
So, my whole thing was, it sounds like the government is basically like, yeah, we're trying to look into us, but it's definitely not us doing it. So, push comes to shove, and this is getting put on the back burner.
Yeah, you might notice he doesn't provide much in way of actual answers.
Yeah.
He pretty much just goes, well, it's not us, and we have no reason to think they're a threat. So, welcome our new alien overlords. And that's because, frankly, they didn't know much more than the press did. Remember, they didn't investigate it like Ruppelt wanted them to. So they were left with essentially no additional information. All they could point to as an explanation was Captain Roy James, who repeated his theory that it was a temperature inversion. Then you might ask, well, what about the lights they could visibly see with their own eyes? James claimed that those were simply mirages. Lights seen by Patterson were merely reflections on his glass, explained why the jets couldn't catch up to them. For those on the ground, he stated that they probably misidentified stars.
This is so frustrating. This is what they always fucking do anyway. But the thing is, like, with it being on the radar, they were like, oh, it's a weather anomaly. But then when they saw it, oh, it's a different anomaly. It's just you. It's just you. It's just you. You're just seeing it because, it's a glare on your windshield. Sorry, man.
it's gaslighting 101.
It is. They are literally gaslighting these people.
Who are, let me remind you, competent professionals, and they're like, nah, you don't know what a star is, dipshit. Fucking idiot. Oh, your job is the sky? I don't care. Stars.
It'd be like telling Katherine Johnson, oh, your job is math? You can't do math.
Who?
You're a woman. Katherine Johnson.
Oh, is that the Hidden Figures lady?
Yes, the Hidden Figures lady.
I was supposed to read that for college. You can probably tell I didn't.
The movie is great. I finally watched it. I have read the book like years ago, but I watched the movie the other night, and it is actually really, really good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Did you know she got her master's degree from WVU?
Yeah, that's why I had to read it for college.
Yeah. I forgot you went there for like a semester, a year, something.
Although, you know what?
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
What?
You said, you know what? And I said, yeah, he's a nice guy. You know what? Like, hey, you know Sam?
Oh, okay. So that was just an aggressively bad dad joke.
Yes.
You fucking 50-year-old man. That'd be a fun idea for a episode, like hauntings in Morgantown. I can talk about my college experience. We'll keep that in the back pocket. Now, this is backed up by the crew of a bomber plane in the area who say that they saw nothing. Another point in this theory's favor was the testimony of one Captain Harold C. Way. During the events of the first sighting around 2 a.m., he detected an unknown object on Andrew Air Force Base's radar. It wasn't just a dude named Andrew who had a radar screen. He stepped outside, saw a bright light that he could not identify at first, but upon second viewing decided it was simply a star. Okay, I've done my job. I've done the responsible thing and presented the official explanation. Now allow me to tear it apart. This explanation does not make sense at all. What the witnesses were seeing lined up perfectly with what was observed on the radars. If one moved, so did the other. Now, I fully concede that pilots can misidentify and weather inversions could mess with radars back then. But the chances that inversions and mirages just perfectly line up so consistently is, no pun intended, astronomical. Not to mention the fact that weather inversions do not flee from military jets, then reappear as soon as they're gone, or disappear and reappear 129 miles away, then poof right back. To be fair, one of the operators did admit that there were weather anomalies picked up on radar that night, but they filtered them out for the genuine objects. They even say that trained operators should be able to distinguish if something is weather or an actual object. I would hope that the senior operator of the national airport would be trained as such.
Yeah, I would fucking hope so.
Gaslight, gatekeep,
Girl boss.
Our next episode is a pretty iconic girl boss. We'll be getting to her in a moment.
Hot.
Indeed. Regardless, the government went with the weather inversion theory as the official explanation. However, it seems not everyone in the government was satisfied with that answer. Chief among them being President Harry S. Truman.
Good old Harold.
Yeah, that's right. The president himself was so concerned with these sightings that he had his aide call Edward Ruppelt, demanding an explanation why Truman listened in on the call. Ruppelt shared James's inversion theory, but it is worth noting that this was before Ruppelt conducted his full investigation. Truman, though, instead turned to another agency for answers, the CIA.
God damn it.
AKA the shiftiest motherfuckers you will ever meet.
Once again,
Go ahead, put a car bomb in my car. I don't care. Fuck you.
Once again, there goes my opportunity of ever receiving a federal job.
Do you want me to cut that out?
No.
Okay. I think everyone knows the CIA is shifty.
They're scary.
MK Ultra, Afghanistan, Operation Condor, cracking inner city schools. Anyway, CIA historian Gerald K. Haynes wrote, quote, "A massive buildup of sightings over the United States in 1952, especially in July, alarmed the Truman administration. On 19 and 20 July, radar scopes at Washington National Airport and Andrews Air Force Base tracked mysterious blips. On 27th July, the blips reappeared. The Air Force scrambled interceptor aircraft to investigate, but they found nothing. The incidents, however, caused headlines across the country," end quote. Stay a while and listen. The CIA did not believe in aliens, though. Not officially, anyway. Their primary concern was that these sightings were a scheme by a foreign country to throw the nation into mass hysteria, potentially weakening it up for an invasion. Remember, this was the Cold War after all, and political tensions were high. They formed a special study committee consisting of members from the Office of Scientific Intelligence and the Office of Current Intelligence, and officially they state that 90% of UFO sightings were easily explained.
Sure. Okay.
Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss. This study committee also influenced the creation of the Robertson Panel, a panel of scientists chaired by physicist Dr. Howard P. Robertson that would examine Blue Book's best UFO cases. Keeping in line with CIA's attitude of debunk or downplay, the panel quickly dismissed that the cases were easily explainable and encouraged Project Blue Book to, quote, "strip the unidentified flying objects of their special status they have been given in the order of mystery they have unfortunately acquired," end quote. Dickheads.
That was the Monopoly Man voice, I swear to God.
I always used to think he and the Pringles face were related.
They seemed like distant cousins.
Yeah. This marked the end of Project Blue Book's golden age of open-minded, honest investigation into unknown phenomena. Instead, they focus on reducing interest in UFOs by downplaying sightings, dismissing cases, and slapping an easy explanation onto incidences. Their monthly published reports focus on cases they could easily dismiss, and if they could not explain a case, they publicized it as little as possible. On top of that, Blue Book staff was cut down to 3 people, including Ruppelt, the director himself. Ruppelt, I should mention, was so disheartened that he actually resigned from his position as Blue Book's director the following year in 1953. Which makes me sad. Dude just gave up because of how shitty they were to him. Decades later, and we're still no closer to an answer as to what happened over Washington, D.C. than in the July of 1952. Both the Pentagon releasing footage of pilots encountering unknown aircraft, and the first congressional hearing on UFOs in over half a century just last year, we turn to these older sightings with a new curiosity. And we have to ask ourselves that question that has inspired an unsettled man since we first laid eyes on the stars above. Are we alone? So, what do you think? Do you believe?
Yeah, I do, honestly. Aliens are so easy for me, though. Like, I am a slut for aliens. Like, I am like, yes, they exist. It is absolutely fucking ridiculous to think that out of all the planets and galaxies and whatevers that are fucking out here, that we're the only living things, that we're the only intelligent species, and we're not even all that fucking smart. So, yeah, no, aliens are real, for sure. UFOs are real. All this shit probably actually happened, and, we gaslit these poor people into thinking they saw funny lights. They saw funny sun. They saw stars. Whatever. Fuck off. Fuck right off with that shit.
No, you didn't see anything. You're crazy. Why would you say that? UFOs are made up.
I'm not mean to you. What are you talking about?
Well, I thought you were actually just talking to me.
No.
Harmon. She abuses me, guys. She hits me as soon as the mic's off.
I do.
Or she hits me on mic and make me edit it out. It's fucked up.
It is.
Oh! See, now they're going to think you hit me. Now, I do want to mention Oh, I should probably give my opinion too. 100%.
Yeah.
I believe in this. I feel like people by now should kind of get my gist. That as
You
long
can
as
believe in everything.
Okay, this is gonna be weird given our history. I don't believe in ghosts
What the fuck?
or love. Yeah, I'm not the biggest believer in ghosts because they leave no evidence. Very little evidence.
We've been scratched and
Yeah, in a building full of rusty nails.
I didn't run into any walls. I sat in a closet and got scratched.
What was in the closet, Jess?
Nothing. Me and a chair.
Was the chair rusty?
No. It's a normal chair.
Was there anything on the wall you could?
No.
This is about aliens. But yeah, ghosts. Not the biggest believer in ghosts. I will not deny them outright. I don't buy it. It's harder to convince me of ghosts and aliens.
The fuck?
Or demons. I don't know.
I feel like I'm being gaslit right now.
There's no such thing as ghosts, Jess. It was simply a mirage on the glass of the door. That's why you couldn't catch up to the ghosts.
Why do you
It was
sound
weather
like...
inversion.
Why do you sound like... Tried getting a reservation at Dorsey and now you stupid son of a bitch!
You stupid fucking bastard! Literally me. Now I do want to mention one last thing. There was another sighting over Washington that year. September 12th. A fiery comet was seen blazing across the sky, terrifying citizens and sparking a panic among the public that the saucers had once again returned. The government, though, assuaged their fears by explaining it was simply a meteor. However, Washington, D.C. wasn't the only place to witness the supposed meteor. It was seen over Maryland, by observers in Pennsylvania, and it was reported to have finally crashed on top of a hill. A hill outside the small West Virginian town of Flatwoods. But that'll be for part 2. For now, keep an eye on the sky, being aware that alien invasions can cause airport delays, and most of all, stay spooky out.